Stones the size of buses, cut with machine-like accuracy, locked together so tightly you can't slide a razor blade between them. No mortar, no gaps. And yet, they've survived centuries of earthquakes that flattened entire cities. This isn't futuristic technology. This is Machu Picchu. And what you're about to see will change the way you think about history. Because the real question isn't what Machu Picchu is. It's how it was built. How did a civilization with no steel, no wheels, and no heavy machinery carve granite harder than modern tools can handle? How did they haul 100-ton blocks up sheer mountain ridges, then lock them together with a precision we still struggle to match? For decades, archaeologists gave the same answers: manpower, simple tools, guesswork. But new evidence is tearing that story apart, and what's being uncovered has left experts shocked. If you're fascinated already, hit that like button and subscribe. We're just getting started. Because what modern technology is finally revealing about Machu Picchu isn't just a mystery solved. It's a revelation that forces us to question everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. And it all starts with the stone itself. Machu Picchu wasn't built from soft rock you can chip away with simple tools. Its walls are granite and andesite, so hard they sit just below diamond on the hardness scale. Yet somehow, the builders shaped them with curves, angles, and joints that look less carved than molded. Here's the problem. The Inca only had bronze and copper chisels. Against granite, those tools should have shattered on the first strike. Still, the stones stand, cut, fitted, and locked with a precision modern engineers struggle to match. Researchers have tracked quarries miles away, traced impossible transport routes, and even tried to recreate the work with modern cranes and saws. The verdict? Moving 100-ton blocks across mountain ridges without wheels or steel isn't just difficult. It borders on impossible. And yet, the city didn't just rise, it endured. Machu Picchu sits directly on a fault line, where earthquakes should have reduced it to rubble. Instead, its walls flex, shift, and reset like they were designed for seismic warfare. Not luck, not chance. Intentional engineering. The kind of foresight that forces us to ask, who really built this, and how much did they know? But Machu Picchu is only the beginning. Across the Andes, traces of the same impossible genius appear again and again. At Pisac, the terraces curve down the mountainside in precise arcs that almost seem designed for astronomical observation. At Tipon, channels carved directly into stone still move water with flawless efficiency centuries later. And at Moray, concentric rings spiral into the earth like a sunken amphitheater, leading some researchers to believe it was an experimental center, a place where crops, climates, or even sound itself were tested. These outposts were not random. They all point toward one masterpiece, a crown jewel, Machu Picchu. Perched nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, its design bends mountain and sky into a single architectural statement. The scale, the geometry, the way it harmonizes with the landscape, none of it matches the narrative of a primitive culture. It suggests a knowledge far beyond its time. And what happened once the stones were set only deepens the mystery. The builders didn't just stack blocks, they sculpted them into puzzle pieces, locking 10 or more together in webs of interlocking angles. This style, polygonal masonry, is unique to the Andes and almost impossible to replicate even with today's machines. Modern engineers admit that fitting stones this way, on this scale, would be a nightmare of logistics and cost. One of the most striking examples is Cusco's Stone of 12 Angles. Its edges cut so clean, its joints so precise, that it appears less carved than molded. Some researchers speculate the builders discovered a lost technique for softening stone. Theories range from high heat to sound vibration to even plant-based compounds rumored in Andean legends. The explorer Percy Fawcett recorded stories of an Amazonian plant that could melt rock, and whispers of the same survive in local folklore to this day. Whether softened, cut, or shaped by some forgotten method, the results are undeniable. Stonework so advanced it borders on the impossible. And standing inside Machu Picchu, surrounded by walls that seem immune to time, the question becomes unavoidable. Did the Inca truly build this alone? Or were they inheriting knowledge from a civilization we no longer remember? The mystery deepens when you look beyond Machu Picchu. At Ollantaytambo, the stones bear recessed notches and drill-like holes that look more machine-made than hand-carved. At Sacsayhuaman, massive boulders show smooth scoop marks, as if carved out with a tool the size of a man's torso. These impressions are symmetrical, uniform, and nothing like the crude impact of bronze chisels. They suggest a technique we no longer recognize. And Machu Picchu itself hides another layer of brilliance. It wasn't only a citadel, it was a living machine. Beneath the stones runs a network of water channels that still function flawlessly, feeding fountains and regulating drainage. The terraces that climb the mountainside weren't built for beauty. They were engineered to anchor the ridge, absorb rainfall, and prevent landslides. Modern engineers admit this is infrastructure, not ornament. But here's the unsettling truth. The Inca never claimed they built it. When the Spanish conquistadors first marveled at the massive walls and temples, they asked who made them. The Inca answer was blunt. They were here before us, and the masonry itself confirms it. In site after site, Inca-style walls sit directly atop older foundations, blocks larger, harder, and cut with a precision the Inca did not replicate. The layering is silent testimony. These builders were inheritors, not the originators. Science only deepens the mystery. Stones cannot be carbon dated, but charcoal, bone, and wood trapped in the oldest layers reveal ages thousands of years before the Inca Empire. Geologists trace granite blocks back to distant quarries, transported through ravines and across rivers without roads or wheels. And under the microscope, some surfaces appear polished smooth as glass, while others show grooves that resemble high-speed machining. A Ketozer Huson Keto, peer-reviewed Tanulmani Ejizeruin Fogalmazta Meg, Ahagiomanios Sizolas Nem Magyarazaja Ezeket Ayeleket. New technology is now peeling back what human eyes alone could not. Satellite imaging and LiDAR scans have revealed vast terraces, tunnels, and chambers hidden beneath the sacred valley. At Sacsayhuaman, LiDAR exposed deep voids beneath the fortress walls. At Machu Picchu, scans suggest the city we see today may only be a fraction of the whole, the rest buried under the mountain. And then comes the most breathtaking revelation of all: the stars. Machu Picchu, like the Coricancha Temple in Cusco, is aligned with astonishing accuracy to solstices and equinoxes, not rough estimates, but fractions of a degree. Its corridors channel sunlight with perfect timing, as though the entire citadel was designed as a cosmic clock. The same precision is echoed in Egypt's pyramids, in Stonehenge, and in ancient temples across the world. In 2024, a round table of archaeologists, geologists, and engineers in Lima finally broke the silence. These were not fringe voices. They were mainstream experts, and together they admitted what many had whispered for decades. There are massive gaps in our understanding of these structures. The question is no longer whether Machu Picchu hides secrets. The question is, how much longer can we deny them? Because if the timeline is wrong, if the tools weren't enough, and if even the Inca themselves admitted they didn't build these foundations, then who did? Machu Picchu may not just be the crown of the Inca Empire, it may be the footprint of something far older, a civilization erased from history, leaving behind only fragments of genius. Archaeology has long pushed the same narrative, that civilization climbs in a straight line, from primitive to advanced. But the stones of Peru tell another story. They suggest knowledge that surged, vanished, and left echoes behind. Skills centuries ahead of their time, now barely understood. Modern scientists call this technological amnesia, the vanishing of entire disciplines after catastrophe. In 2023, Oxford researchers even named Peru's megaliths as case studies in that mystery. And the Andes are not alone. From Baalbek in Lebanon to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey to the pyramids of Egypt, the same fingerprint appears. Stones too vast, cuts too perfect, alignments too precise. Cultures separated by oceans and millennia, somehow left behind the same riddle, as if tapping into a lost global science. The Inca themselves spoke of Viracocha, a tall, bearded figure who emerged after a great flood, wielding knowledge no ordinary man possessed. Across the ocean, the Greeks told of Atlantis, the Sumerians of Gilgamesh. Different names, different myths, but the same haunting theme. A golden age shattered, a flood that erased it, survivors who carried fragments of impossible knowledge into the future. And what survives the fire and flood? Not parchment, not wood, not memory. Only stone. If catastrophe struck the ancient Andes, perhaps Machu Picchu is not a citadel at all, but a last stronghold, an ark of knowledge disguised as architecture. Which brings us to the strangest clue of all: sound. At Machu Picchu, claps and voices echo back with unnatural clarity, as though the walls themselves were tuned. Across the Andes, similar acoustic hotspots appear. Plazas where whispers carry, staircases where echoes return in perfect rhythm. Scientists now wonder if this was deliberate. Could sound itself have been a tool? In modern labs, vibration has been shown to move and fracture matter. Legends from Egypt to Tibet tell of tones that could lift stones or shatter mountains. If sound could shape stone, another force may have worked alongside it: magnetism. At several Andean sites, stones don't just sit inert. Instruments detect faint but consistent magnetic anomalies running through them, almost as if they were deliberately charged, aligned, or tuned. Was this an accident of geology, or did the builders know how to harness the Earth's natural magnetism? Some researchers suggest it could have stabilized structures, balanced their weight, or even reduced the impossible effort of lifting stone. The science is still emerging, but the patterns are there, waiting for someone to decode their language. What makes this so haunting is that it doesn't require aliens, fantasy, or futuristic machines. It requires something much closer to home: the idea that human history is older, deeper, and far stranger than the textbook timeline allows. Advanced knowledge doesn't always leave behind steel towers or microchips. Sometimes it leaves only stone, etched, aligned, half erased by time, dismissed because it doesn't fit the story. Which raises the harder question: if such knowledge existed, why did it vanish? How does a civilization capable of precision that rivals modern engineering simply disappear? The Andes themselves may hold the answer. This is a land born in fire and torn apart by constant upheaval. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods, and landslides scar its mountains with every passing century. Civilizations here rise and vanish in cycles of destruction. And the geological record shows that around 11,000 to 12,000 years ago, during the cataclysm known as the Younger Dryas, the world was thrown into chaos. Ice sheets collapsed, sea levels surged, weather patterns snapped into violent extremes. In South America, layers of sediment reveal catastrophic deluges that swallowed entire valleys. If a great culture once thrived here, it may not have faded slowly. It may have been erased in days. But cataclysm wasn't the only force of erasure. If a civilization existed before the Inca, then most of its world, everything except the stone, has long since vanished. Wood rotted, cloth dissolved, entire cities erased by time. And what nature didn't take, conquest finished. When the Spanish stormed into Peru in the 1500s, they didn't just conquer the Inca, they waged war on memory itself. Temples were torched, rituals outlawed, sacred stories silenced. Where once stood sanctuaries, churches rose in their place, often built directly on the same megalithic foundations. The most sacred of all, Coricancha, the Temple of the Sun, was gutted and consumed, reshaped into the Church of Santo Domingo. The conquistadors weren't just dismantling the Inca, they were severing humanity's link to something even older. In Spanish records, conquistadors note that the Inca themselves admitted they hadn't built the Cyclopean foundations beneath their temples. But the Spaniards dismissed these claims as superstition. With that, the trail into the deeper past was severed. Memory, once broken, is fragile. Without writing, ancient knowledge survived only in rituals, priests, and oral stories. And oral tradition can vanish in a single generation, erased by war, plague, or foreign rule. That's why Inca builders often seem to mimic what came before, raising smaller, less precise walls atop older blocks the size of trucks. The contrast is visible to this day. The lower stones scream of an origin beyond the Inca's own reach. For centuries, that contrast sat in silence. But in the last few decades, new tools have begun to strip away the fog of conquest and time. And what they reveal has stunned even the most skeptical scholars. The turning point came with LiDAR, light detection and ranging. Originally designed for military use, this technology fires millions of laser pulses into the landscape, peeling away jungle and mountain as if erasing the Earth's skin. In 2022, researchers scanned the Sacred Valley with LiDAR, and the results were staggering. Beneath the visible ruins lay hidden terraces, massive walls, and vast geometric layouts stretching for miles. Some aligned perfectly with Machu Picchu. Others had no known counterpart, no place in the official timeline. They weren't natural, they weren't random. They were the fingerprints of an unknown civilization, one older, stranger, and more advanced than anything the history books are willing to admit. And the deeper the scans went, the stranger the discoveries became. Near Moray, LiDAR revealed a design long dismissed as farming terraces, concentric rings spiraling downward like a stone amphitheater. But new soil and rock analysis shattered that assumption. These depressions weren't simple gardens. They behaved like an engineered laboratory. Temperatures varied by several degrees between the upper and lower rings. Water and acoustics flowed in measurable patterns. What once looked like agriculture now suggests controlled experiments, an ancient science of climate, sound, and solar alignment. At Ollantaytambo, 3D scanning uncovered something even stranger. Carved grooves and notches, once thought random, mapped into sweeping curves with mechanical precision, symmetries that mimic the signatures of machine tooling. Some walls are so perfectly interlocked that when temperatures shift, the blocks expand and contract as if they were a single body of stone. That is foresight modern engineers rarely achieve. Then came the breakthrough at Sacsayhuaman. In 2023, spectroscopic testing revealed mineral alterations on the stone surfaces, patterns that suggest heat treatment or chemical modification. In other words, the blocks may have been softened before shaping. No Inca kilns, no industrial furnaces, no evidence of massive fire exists to explain this. And yet, the stones tell the story. Deliberate, controlled processes we cannot replicate, applied only to the most intricate cuts. Now, even artificial intelligence has joined the search. Feeding data from thousands of sites into neural networks, researchers found architectural signatures invisible to the human eye. Temples aligned to solstices with sub-degree precision, walls that follow golden ratio harmonics, geometries that echo the mathematics of music itself. These were not coincidences or artistic flourishes. They were the fingerprints of a standardized system of knowledge, shared, repeated, and perfected across generations. Piece by piece, the illusion of primitive builders is collapsing. Drones now scan hidden ridges. Ground radar peers beneath the streets of Cusco. LiDAR unveils entire valleys once thought untouched. And with each discovery, a picture emerges of a civilization that engineered not just with strength, but with vision, combining science, art, and nature into a harmony we barely comprehend. They left behind no books, no written records, no armies of conquest. Only stone. Stones that bend under heat without cracking. Stones that sing when struck. Stones that lock into place as if alive. Stones that refuse to yield their secret. Which leaves us with the most haunting truth of all. Perhaps the mystery of Machu Picchu is not how it was built, but how we forgot it ever could be.